In this book, I'm going to talk about how to do a commonplace book. Now, commonplace books have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. John Locke actually wrote a new method of making a commonplace book in 1706, and he was an English philosopher and physician. He was born in 1632. He was a devout conservative Christian who believed in creation, the miracles of the Bible, and his writings actually influenced the Declaration of Independence. But his new method was a new way of organizing a commonplace book. Now, even though we have computers and I organize my bookmarks on my computer, even though we have a phone and I organize my bookmarks on the phone, or we have photos and we put them in like an Amazon photo drive and we organize them there, we still have need for notebook taking and notebook writing. We still do it. I have oodles and oodles of notebooks from college or taking a class that are just filled, and I'll never be able to find that information again, but it's so valuable that I actually did write it down and I wanted it written down. Or you could have important sketches or inventions or poetry or songs you've written, or notes from your classes. So I'm going to specifically show this how to use this in a co-op or homeschool setting, but just to give you just a idea of why it's so special and why you want to use one. So let's take first a look at what John Locke has done. So first, what he's made is a really amazing table of contents, which I've reproduced here. So we're going to come back to that, but just note that there is every letter of the alphabet. Next to each one is a set of vowels, A, E, I, O, U. And so it goes all the way through. I modified his on Q. With Q, he just would have had Q and then just a U. And I thought, I can do him one better. And so I did Q, U in a set of vowels. So actually, you'll see, I'll explain that in a little bit, how that will work a little different, but gives you a little more variety with the Q. Okay, so a commonplace book is for things, it doesn't need to be, well, it doesn't need to be a really expensive book because you're not going to be referring to it every single day for the rest of your life. Like you're going to fill it out, use it, write it in like a normal notebook, then you're done with it and it's going to go on a shelf for storage. And it's categorized so you can find things in it later, but it doesn't need to be like a $30 hardback or leather bound. I mean, it can be, but it's fine to use something that's simple. I choose the Clairefontaine because of their French ruled and they're smooth as butter paper. It's worth it for your handwriting to have these two facets. So that's why I chose this book. So let me just show you, like in our homeschool world, some of the things that I think are just kind of a shame to not use a commonplace book. So for instance, these lovely tree pictures. This is the teacher manual, so the answers are written in. But these are something the students could have drawn in their own book and labeled them and been really proud of this work. Instead, they'll just label them here, and then we will throw away this book when we're done. Another one, this book is filled with nature journalings where they're going to be learning about trees, and probably 20 different times they're going to sketch a leaf, the flower, the fruit, and describe about it. I mean, who saves their student books, right? Like we have so many of these student books. If you're a person who's using a curriculum that has consumables, we don't save these. They get thrown away. They get tossed. This is, again, the teacher book. But in the student book, it's going to be, a lot of sloppy handwriting, maybe. Who knows what your kid writes like. And then they'll have these nice pictures here. So the whole book, there's probably these pictures and then some of these diagrams that could be really valuable had they don't need to, they could write these out on their own and refer to them later as they're looking at a tree trying to remember, was it a deltoid or a chordate or a linear leaf? And so this is a kind of a test picture, or like the parts of a flower, they could have drawn that themselves and kept that for all of time, even referring in college if they wanted to remember. But instead this will get thrown away and hopefully it's in their long-term memory, which it's not gonna be, right? Like we forget things. Another great example, in this curriculum, it wants me to teach the patriarchal family tree. And this would be something that I might write on the board and then it's gone. But how cool if this was in this commonplace book and they could build on it week by week and keep adding to the family tree and refer to it. And it's something they could refer to again and again. So Locke would recommend, if you knew you were going to be doing a lot of science, that maybe your orange book was science and your blue book was poetry, or if that was how you're going to organize it. Or if you're someone who doesn't do a ton of either, you can certainly use one. Either way, the table of contents is going to be the key. And this was his new method of organizing a Commonplace book. So you have your alphabet here. So let's say it was the patriarchs. Patriarchal family tree. The patriarch family tree is what I'm going to title it. Whatever you title it, it needs to be something you're going to remember. Don't just title it tree. Like, you have to think through it and how you're going to title it. So let's say it was on a clean page here. John Locke would put his title here in the margins, because when he's flipping through later, he would say this would be where he would look and it's easiest. This one gives you a lot of nice white space at the top. So that's worth maybe doing there. But if you want to do it the way John Locke did it, he would put it sideways on the side, very large. Maybe nowadays with the advent of highlighters, you even highlight it. You will be numbering your pages as you go. So let's say this was the page I write, Patriarch Family Tree. The first word in this is patriarch. Patriarch starts with a P. So we go to P. And let's say that was on page, we were on 3. I go to P, P, and then the first vowel in patriarch is A. So P-A, and I'm going to write a 3. And then that's what you do. So as you're building this, the likelihood that the entire book is going to be filled with PAs is pretty minimal. In that case, you may need to start thinking of different titles, but it's all going to be filled out. And so later you look back and you're, where do I have that patriarch family tree? You'll go through, and let's say there's 2 things written here. There was something, let's say there was pagodas. I don't even know what that is. I think it's a Japanese dress or something, or maybe it's, I don't know. Let's say you did pagodas and patriarch family tree. You'd have 2 PAs, 3 and page 25. So I could quickly flip to page 3 and see, oh, that's it actually. Or if I was looking for pagodas, okay, it's not that one, go to page 25. All right, there it is, pagodas. And so that would give me the 2 different PAs to look through. So in a normal notebook, there's no table of contents. You're just writing all your notes. And if you ever want to find, you know, a tidbit you wrote about the patriarchs, you would have to look through an entire notebook to find it. The next way, once you start really getting into this and categorizing these, Ronald Reagan, oh man, there were so many people. Let me look at my notes for the other guy. There was this guy, W. Ross Ashby. He was a medical student in 1928, and he had written 25 journals, which amounted to 7,189 pages. So he and Ronald Reagan both categorized them by, they would write like a big 1 on this one. And then they would take all these table of contents and put them on index cards. So Ronald Reagan had 1,600 index cards, and he would get one of those like photo notebooks and he would put them in there. So he would have like PA would be like a note card, and he would have book 1, page 3, page 53. And so he would know if he was looking for patriarchs, he would go to that note card that was PA, and then he could find which book it was in and which pages, like so fast to find his notes. When you're someone who's a speaker, or like Ross Ashby was a scientist, that you are going to have so many of these books. The British Library in London actually digitized all of his Commonplace books, and you can find them on rossashby.info. And it's pretty fascinating to see, like, the things that you write in here may last beyond your life. They may bless your children's lives. They may be so important that people beyond you are looking at them. So for your own information, they're valuable. And then also just for note-taking, like in classes. So if I was teaching this class on the patriarchs, I would have them write this. I'd write it on the board and have them copy it into their Commonplace book. If they're real little, I'd help them even do the heading. But as they get older, it'll become more, they'll be able to do it on their own and figure it out. Same with the tree book. I would have them write their trees in here and then label leaves, tree leaves, or probably leaves would be better. You have to think of a title that's going to be unique that you'll remember it again. And whatever the specific thing they were learning, you know, the flower or the anatomy of a flower, they would have to decide on what the best title is that they'll remember. It really comes down to what you're going to remember. And then that could go in here. They could refer to that again and again and again versus just writing it on the board or writing it here. It's going to get thrown away. But every time they go through, you know, even if they go to write, oh, I remember that. That was really interesting. And they're going to look at it again and again versus they're never going to look at it in a book and it's going to get thrown away. So Commonplace books, Don't need to be the most fantastic books you've ever bought in terms of like a $50 book with leather and it's hand sewn. Like it's not gonna be used every single day of your life, but it does need to stand up to it. Like at least a year's worth of wear and tear is probably how long it will take you to fill out a book like this. This is a small size. They come in bigger. They come in cloth bound on the edge. That could be nice because you could write a 1 on the edge. But these kind are nice too because they lay completely flat, even like so. So there's just different varieties of notebooks, but I do recommend the highest quality of paper for handwriting. And the French ruled is what I've settled on is really the best for precision in handwriting, as we need to do both all the time, always. So that is the summary of a Commonplace book. I hope you get one and try it out for yourself, even as an adult.